Hello, everybody. Welcome to NUFC Talk TV. How are you, all of you? Hope you had a good day, good afternoon, good morning. If you're watching from somewhere far, I don't even. Is there morning right now anywhere? Probably there is. Yeah, there is. Probably
Australia's probably
eight,
going to be,
close to it. Yeah. But
yeah.
welcome to NUFC, of course, NUFC Talk TV. My name is Chris, the American Man. We got Gary here for the late night show. Back at 10 p.m. 4 p.m. in the U.S. Back at 10 p.m. You know what? Yeah, we just got to stick to their bases. Stick to what got us here. But regardless, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, of course. And I didn't think we did, but as usual, Newcastle United they have stuff. And now even after everything is settled down, we're able to just find some things across the web as we're surfing the web base, like the mighty wind would say, surfing the web, and we find some things happening. But I do first of all, hit the like button, please. Become a member if you can. Thank you so much to. I see notice that we had a new member, which is infamous Short Billy 75. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that support as usual. Thank you, and lovely to see you as part of our members. We got a lot of stuff coming for members as well, so you're gonna enjoy that. And if you're not a member yet, please consider becoming one and help us support the channel. But you can definitely hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and so on and so forth. So I want to talk about the table, but Gary, how you doing, mate? All good?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, good. Exhausted from the weekend because obviously it was a long weekend, doing a lot of work behind the scenes and obviously the live match and then 3 hour session at the end. And it's like I said,
Yeah.
it's just trying to bring all the information forward, isn't it? So, yeah, absolutely exhausted mentally. But like everything, the show must go on.
Show must go on, mate. The show must go on. All right, so incredible though, man. Looking at the table, Newcastle United are third in the Premier League. Our best start I've heard in the last 24 odd years or something like that, or 20,
Yeah.
20 something years. And so obviously we criticize the team because when we feel needed, we praise the team when it feels needed. We talk about what's happening. We try to keep an objective thought because if we just go by the score line, as I like to say, we can just put the score line here, a picture of it, and put it on there for an hour, and and that's it. But we got to put context into what's happened, and I think that although we had a great turnout of events, um, I don't know that we can continue much longer getting results without playing good. And I do believe that we were better than Wolves. However, we were at the mercy of Wolves in a lot of parts of the game, and I don't know that you can do this with Man City, with Arsenal, with the teams that are fighting for the Premier League, or even fighting for those top four, top three, top four, top five, top six. Uh, can we beat those teams? Can we afford to go down every single time and then come back? Can we really afford? That's the biggest question. I think that the more we play better and we or attempt to do it, obviously you're not gonna. This is why it's a competitive sport. You don't know how it's gonna turn out to be. But at least if you try to play better and you accomplish that, you the chances of winning are going to be higher than losing. It is football, though, so we've seen upsets before, but at least the chances or the probabilities of winning a game are going to be higher when you're in good form. And I'm not saying that Eddie Howe is not trying to do that, but at the same token, the fact that the starting lineup wasn't, the greatest. Um, the,
I
the
think
fact that the starting lineup there we go, the fact that the starting lineup is not, it wasn't the greatest, or what most people thought. um it reflects that. I'm not saying that Eddie wanted to lose the game, but clearly, maybe not intentionally, shooting himself in the foot. So how far can we keep going with these getting results and not playing in good form is the question out there.
your luck's going to run out eventually. I mean, at the end of if you look at our games at the moment, there's lots of people out there that say, we've been lucky against Wolves. You could say, um, Bournemouth potentially. You could say we were lucky. And I don't get that. You play to the level as you can. The lads didn't stop trying. It wasn't as if they were completely pegged back the entire game, and like we were at Man City when they eventually got the goal. Alvarez scored, um, and Eddie now has got to find a way with the lads that he's got to get us playing better. Now, whether that's starting all of the big players, the big names, and unfortunately, as we again saw on Sunday, there was a couple of players that just literally wasn't existing. And like I said, when you get two players, the normal players, I mean, that weren't up to speed, and then you add another one, which is J7, who didn't have a great game in midfield, it becomes very difficult. It becomes a tiresome job. Especially as a captain, it must have been like pulling your hair out for Bruno to try and get the minimum of three of them to get a little bit better, because the retention of the ball was great for the first 20 minutes. And then you start to lose possession. And then obviously then it becomes a little bit tiresome because you chase the ball for another 10 minutes. And then you gain a little bit of momentum again. And again, it was that final third, it was decision making. We didn't seem to make the right decisions at the right time. And you can blame a number of people, but Eddie needs to now look at the team going forward. And it's not about having depth on the squad. It's about going out there and performing, because performance always raises the rest of the team. And everybody that's come for an interview at this present moment in time have all said exactly the same. We just, we could improve all over the pitch. But again, Lady Luck will run out and it will come to bite you on the backside. The problem is then, once Lady Luck has run out, does that put you on a different spiral? And like I said, momentum then is lost, confidence starts to wane, and then the so-called superstars. For me, body language has been an issue. I've seen a couple of lads, even though I say Anthony Gordon was great on Sunday. He still gets lost when he plays through the middle, and I think that's something that Eddie needs to look at as well. We know he can play there. He's just a totally different player. He just doesn't suit our style. And that's the same with Isak. Isak against Wolves was a non-entity in the first half, simply because he's no good playing with his back to the defenders. He's not that type of player. He's not a strong player. He's not one of these, shithousery players that'll dig you in the ribs or to tread on your toes to try and get you off him. He likes to run deep, turn and run at the play. So there was a lot of things that works against us. Lads found a way, and you can literally, you just raise your hat to that. But Eddie does need to find a way sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. But third in the league, so we're definitely looking good. When it comes to stats, I mean, we're good. We're
Yeah, yeah.
good. We're good. I mean, the difference of goals is only two between Arsenal and Newcastle, which is very impressive. But of course, Liverpool is just 1 point behind us. Aston Villa the same. Brighton within a couple of points from us. Forest the same. So
Even
it's just
Forest, I'm going to say.
even Forest, yeah, and even Chelsea, 3 points away, and but everything is so tight at the moment. So I don't want to dwell too much or make it about the table, because this is just 4 games in. I mean, any result can change anything. However, on on the weekend when we play Fulham, which I'm back and lovely to have Saturday games again. Those are my favorite days, man. I hate Sundays,
Yeah,
Sunday
yeah.
games. I do. But if we win that game, we could potentially be top of the league for a day,
Exactly
which
24 hours.
I'm not sure when the last time we actually were top of the league. I don't know if people in the chat know. I mean, even temporarily, obviously, which until the final game of the season, everything is temporarily. But when is that's a good question for the chat. When is the last time we actually were top of the
Mm.
league? And
Well, obviously, the big time was obviously back in the 95-96 season where I think it was 95-96 season where we were top of the league for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we were miles ahead. And unfortunately, we caved in a little bit. But um, is that AG is putting any news on Isak's eye? Well, I had a look this morning. I had a look this afternoon, and it's still coming up with obviously a now struck blurred vision. I hope it's not a corneal abrasion, because when you get smacked in the face with the ball, obviously the side of the ball, even though it's circular, it flattens. And if you get caught across the face with your eye open, you can get a little graze on the front of the cornea, and that is a bugger, and that could be a couple of weeks, if not longer, out to get that sorted. So again, without knowing the full details and the full content of that, I'm not sure where we are. Again, it could be just a broken nose, as Paul was saying, because they couldn't stench the bleeding. So if he's snapped his nose, there's every chance he will be in a mask if he plays on Saturday. But at the minute, he's 75%. He's not 100% to start. So
Yeah,
we will have to wait and see on that one.
yeah. Well, obviously he is he is very, very important for the team. He doesn't have a clear cut substitute. Obviously, Osula would be one, but he's still a young guy, and at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do, which is if you have to play him, you have to play him. It is what it is. However, my point in that I'm about to make with that is that I just still think Eddie will not start Osula, even though uh,
No,
he would be the clear cut substitute for Isak. However, because we saw what happened in the second half, he wasn't even thought of,
no.
coming in. And I think that's kind of a shame because I would have liked to see what Osula could have brought to the table. I don't think Gordon. I think Gordon at center, and we're gonna get into what Alan Shearer was talking about this particular subject as well on this podcast. That he didn't have a good game, but he understands it because that was one of he knew everybody knew what Eddie wanted to do. However, it didn't work.
Mm,
Um, I mean, I think in this team, it's really simple. It's Barnes on the left, Gordon on the right, Isak in the middle. Gordon needs to play on the right. You need to have Harvey Barnes on this team. You just need it, and you have to give. I know we're segueing into Gordon, uh, but you have to give Gordon time on the right. You can't just do 15 minutes and then he plays bad. No, you got to give him time. Got to give
yeah,
him
yeah.
time.
I mean, it looks, and AJ just put it in the chat there. Look, for me, Gordon will play up front if Isak isn't fit, which obviously changes the whole makeup of the team. As much as the lad runs into channels and stuff like that, he's not the type of player that's going to really get involved in the difference between Larson for them, for Wolves, against Burn, who made Burn look really uncomfortable because of his size, his stature. He was muscling people. He had Burn out the way. Even Shaw, he was moving the two, our two centre halves literally out the way as he was playing, and he was unlucky. He hit the post, and that's what I said. He's a different style of player. We miss the likes of Wilson against Wolves because Wilson's the type of player that will rough it up with them, and he will make a nuisance of himself. Isak doesn't do that. Isak's better off, like I say, when that would have been a perfect game to have Wilson up top and have Isak in the number 10 slot because he loves to pick the ball up in them half spaces and run at you, and it causes havoc. He draws a lot of players around him, which then frees up other players if seen. Um, but the likes of Gordon, which as we've seen, we've seen last season, we've seen it this season already. Gordon just isn't a direct like for like number 9. Yes, he will probably
No,
get us the odd goal, but he's not going to cause that much trouble.
no.
And yeah, we've got Fulham, but every point now that's gained is a point until we reach the bigger teams, and that's what we must strive for.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you that could be obviously an emergency, a band aid that you need to stop the bleeding on, but that can't be your go to move. And again, everybody's thinking that Osula's going to get minutes against Wimbledon, which it might happen. It looks like it could happen. I think Eddie is the manager that does that. But you're going to put him in there. He's going to not have any minutes, and he's got to figure out how to understand himself between whoever the wingers are. More than likely, Gordon, maybe Barnes, maybe Murphy. Which again, they practice together, so it's not like they don't know each other. However, I don't know. I just feel like for 10 minutes in a game, to be fair to Eddie, we haven't had a game where we've been comfortably winning it so he can bring in Osula, for a couple of minutes. We're winning the game already. We haven't been in that situation. Every game has been, till the end, type game. So we got a question here from Benjamin. Says, if he's unavailable for Fulham, do you start Osula? Well,
You just
that's
said
exactly what we're talking about.
it.
And again, I would go for it. I would go for it because he's a center forward. He knows what he needs to do, and you would give it a shot. I mean, with these young guys is going to go two ways. Either they break under pressure, or you have young guys that are careless and they play as if they're
Yeah,
just playing amongst the lads. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
It's experience that he needs, though, Chris, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like I said. If you put Gordon up front, we lose anything on the right hand side. It was witnessed against Wolves. We didn't have any balance whatsoever. It was topsy turvy. He Eddie changed that fluid system to have Tino running on the inside channel, and then for some unknown reason, up top you had Murphy not giving him much space. So obviously, when Tino come up into that channel, you should have had Longstaff dropping a little bit deep and then moving across to the left hand side to open up the mid that hollow section, the half section, just be in front of their defence to try and create that space. And it just wasn't working on the right hand side. Murphy obviously was non-existent. He was one of the main problems in the team, if you have it. And he lasted the full 90. And that's because we just haven't got anybody that can fit into that slot. And it was really strange not to see even Miggy have a go, And like I said, it looks like Miggy's dropped down the pecking order massively now.
hmm
And that's something else that you've got to think of. When you look at the 11 on the pitch, the two areas of concern, as we know, it's centre midfield, and you can often bail them out because you've got obviously two good midfielders to the side of you, and that's what's happened with Longstaff. But on that right hand side, when there's no contribution from the right hand side, it shows massively. Hence, all the concentration for us goes left, and any opposite manager, it's quite easy then for them to get a tactic against you because you know the dominant side. So
yeah.
you go heavy on the one side, leave the other side as occupied, but not overly occupied, and it stifles us. And that's what Wolves did. Wolves stifled us. There was only one time really that Anthony Gordon actually got round the back of them, and he was very unlucky not to get a goal. But it would have changed the game if that would have gone in, but it didn't. And we had to come from behind and find a way of coming from behind. And I thought the lads did well to do that.
John Mitchison has a question. Do you think Bruno is captain material? In my opinion, he's not, and he's not up to the same standard as last season. And J7 needs to replace by Willock, Tonali, Willock, or Bruno? Question mark. Um, well, that's an interesting question because obviously he hasn't been the same this whole season, and he's been a captain this whole season. Whether that's a coincidence or not, that's up for debate. Do you think he's got a distraction in being captain?
Well, it wouldn't have distracted him over in Brazil. He wasn't captain there. He played
Right.
awful. Well, not awful, but he didn't have one of his better games. So I just think this is a place where all good footballers go. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do; it just doesn't happen for you. And like I say, when you're covering uh, two poor performers, and that again, look at J7. We've talked about Longstaff. When you've got two lads either side of you that just aren't performing, it makes your role more important. There's going to be games where you shine, and there's going to be games where it just doesn't happen for you. But for me, having looked at the game again, I think Guimaraes on Sunday had a role to do, and that was to stop Cunha having a game. And if you notice, Cunha didn't really get involved, apart from spits and spats. And I think that was all down to Bruno, getting in close to him, but unfortunately, that took him totally out of the game. Um, but can we blame the captaincy on that at the moment? Not until the lads start to perform, and I think it's the whole team that needs to start performing before we can actually see the true strengths of Bruno. The one thing I did love of Bruno, and if anybody gets a chance to have a look back at it, when Harvey Barnes scored the winning goal, He runs towards the crowd, smiling, and as he always does. But he didn't do his usual bow and arrow until Bruno said to him, "Go to the crowd, and we'll do it together." And they both produced the bow and arrow. And to me, like I said, it's little things like that that make a good
Make your
captain,
captain.
because you want to engage the audience, and it jolts the players up. Get involved. So he is doing bits. He's done bits the entire time. What I have noticed, what we haven't seen a lot this year, and I don't. And please correct me, everybody in the chat, that if they have, some last year where we were trying to get the crowd going all the time. We don't see a lot of that these days. It's as if
Mm.
there's been a lot of concentration on what they're doing rather than geeing up the crowd. So it'll be interesting to see whether that's just a mental thing and they're trying their best to do something and they've just blocked it out, or it's something that the manager said, listen, let's concentrate on the game, let's get the game won, and we'll deal with the crowd afterwards. But they all did come out afterwards and obviously applaud the lads, as they always do. But it's like I say, you have to lead by example on the
Yep.
on the thing. But like I said, we don't know what the tactics were that Eddie gave him. So we've just got to watch from this day forward to see whether something improves.
Well, talking about Harvey Barnes, let's take a quick listen and watch to what he had to say about the game in particular. Let's take a listen to the hero of Newcastle United last night.
Early days, but you want to see yourself up there and keep yourself up there. That is our aim this season. So to get into the top three this early in the season just gives us now a target to stay up there for as long as we can, and being around the teams that we want to be around, which is where we are.
You've got Fulham next week, another away trip, but how much will this result benefit you?
Yeah, no, it's going to give us a lot of confidence. It's them away games which are going to be important this year, which I touched on, and today's going to give us a big boost for that. We think we approached it well today, and next week's going to be the same. We're going to go into that game wanting to get 3 points, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, there you go. Interesting, mature comments by Harvey Barnes. Let's move on to Eddie Howe, because he said a few things after the match, a few that I didn't. Obviously, we titled and thumbnailed the show based on his takes on Sky Sports that I didn't. Obviously, I don't have Sky, so I didn't particularly know about this, other than obviously reading in today's papers what he has said. But before we get to those comments, let's watch the comments that he made with NUFC TV, not Talk TV, NUFC TV, the channel, which I don't even know if they're called NUFC TV no more. They just say, Newcastle official video channel on the website. And he said, amongst about a lot of things, he said winning is the best medicine. Maybe for the bad form. We're going to take a look at what he had to say. By the way, you can enjoy these post-match conferences on this channel as well. They're uploaded and ready for you to watch. As soon as we get them from the club, we'll post it on the channel. So stay tuned for those on match days as well. And there you go. Look, I didn't even hit the like button. Oh, I'm not even signed in on this one. But hit the like button as you always should, and subscribe. I'm not even signed in onto this. What the heck? But anyways, let's hopefully they don't play any adverts because they're going to screw us up. But let's take a listen to Eddie.
Premier League always, never surprises you because every game is very difficult. We knew today was going to be. As a positive start, I thought we played really well for 20 minutes, controlled the game without really creating the chances that our dominance may be warranted. But then Wolves came back into the game mainly on transitions. They scored the goal on a transition, and then I think when the crowd are in the game here, a good home crowd, it was difficult.
2 goals in the space of 5 minutes ultimately turned it around. 2 fantastic strikes they were as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's another Fabian one for the show reel, really, for him. He's a centre-half that can do magical things. I think it took a little deflection, but it was a great strike. And then Harvey, another unbelievable finish. I mean, we've seen it consistently with Harvey. He's a great finisher from short distance, from long range, but a brilliant goal.
Substitutes have contributed for you in recent games. Obviously, Fabian's just come back from a 3-game suspension, and he has contributed in front of goal. How key is it having all of the players in the squads contributing to your side?
Well, it's massive. You're never going to win anything or achieve anything with 11 players. It's always about squad. I feel we've got a really good squad. Still not huge in numbers, but high in quality, and you could see that today with the players we had to turn to from the bench that made a difference, and that will continue to be the case all through the season, hopefully. And that's what we maybe lacked at times last year with the amount of injuries that we had. But today was a brilliant show of squad strength and squad character. The fact the players came on with the right attitude, wanting to make a difference. So I'm delighted with everybody.
Once you equalised through Fabian, did you sense a shift that you could not just pick up a point, but pick up all three?
Yeah, I think when the momentum's with you, as it was when we scored, we believed, and we wanted to be positive. All the changes we tried to make were positive, believing that we could win the game. You've got to have that belief at all times, and then it was once we scored, Lewis got cramp, and we're defending really with 10 men at the end. It was just trying to survive, and thankfully we did.
Have you been really impressed with the resilience of the squad at the beginning of this season?
Yeah, I think because the games we've played we haven't been dominant in them, and all through the game we've had moments, but those moments have counted. I think we've defended really well, we've attacked really well at certain stages of the game. I don't think we've had total control of the games. That's something that we want to improve. But winning is the only thing that can give you confidence and give you the ability to do that. So a good start to the season for us.
Alexander Isak was taken off at half-time. He was on the floor before the whistle. Is that injury-related? Or?
Yeah, I think I don't know the exact details, but I think he took a ball to the face and his eye was, his vision was slightly impaired. So it's something we'll look at. We hope it's not serious, but we don't know.
You're now into the top three. You've got another away trip in Fulham next week, but how much will the manner of this result benefit you going into the next coming weeks?
Yeah, I think it will. I think, as I said earlier, winning is the best thing, best medicine for any football team. And we just want to keep it going for as long as we can, keep the feeling in the group. We respect every opponent. Fulham will be difficult.
Oh, there you go. Interesting stuff from Eddie, of course. Winning is the best medicine. And it is really. I mean, it gives. If we were losing games amidst everything happening in the back rooms and that form not being as good, trust me, it would be a different atmosphere all around. And we're gonna get into more comments because he did talk a lot more about other things. But let's get into some of the comments that people are posting right now. So keep your comments, keep your questions coming. Wise Guy says Gordon played on the right mostly at Everton. Yeah, so he's done it before. He just maybe needs more time.
He was born as a right winger. And like I say, the weekend for me was the perfect opportunity. And now we struggled because of putting all 5 subs on to change things around a lot. But it's like I said, when you look at the spine of the team, when Isak obviously got hurt, for me the obvious opportunity to attack them was Aït-Nouri, because obviously he's not, as we said yesterday, he's not a left back. So there was a potential to get around the back. But unfortunately, because of the amount of subs we made, we were unable to. So it is one of them. I mean, like I say, we've won the game. We can't be too harsh on them or hypercritical. It's just how he changes things now going forward.
All right. All right. Terminator says, I agree, Chris Osula. Gem Stasher says, what's the worst Osula going to do? His passing is intercepted, which leads our opponent to score on a break. Well, if the center forward can't lose the ball, we're in big trouble. Because you're the farthest you're going to be from your own goal, unless he's in our own area. So I mean, it's about defending as well, and we weren't prepared. The way Longstaff lost the ball, the Wolves were positioned to the counterattack already, and it just takes one long pass and it's over, man. Which Dan Burn tried to keep up, couldn't, got nutmegged, but and also I did blame some of that on Shar on my scores. I deducted some points because you've got to know where Lamina is at that point. Everybody, all 3 defenders going towards the ball, and the goal is wide open. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of people's mistakes, but obviously started with Longstaff. So, I don't. Come on, in that case, when is he going to play? Never. If we're thinking that he's going to make a mistake. PDK, he's 19 and never scored on a Premier League goal. I would stick with Gordon. He played that role in the under 21s. I mean,
Hmm.
this kid is under 21. England, not for England, for Norway, but Norway, right? No, Denmark.
Denmark, yeah.
So, I
And can
mean,
score with both feet as well. It's not as if he's a one-footed wonder. The kid
right,
scores as many goals with his left foot as he does with his right.
right. So I don't know, man. I don't get that part. But anyway, everybody's got their opinion. Viraikin, we had used up all our 5 subs by then. Willock,
Yeah.
Tonali, Barnes, Kelly, and Trippier. Yeah, that's true. Ryan Foster, sorry, as captain, is your job to lead, show by example how your team plays. That is the captain's job. Anything else is just excuses.
Depends on what tactics he's been given. There, you
Yeah,
can't blame everything onto him. But like I say, he hasn't had a good season. We know that. So there's going to be a question mark over his captaincy.
yeah.
Mm.
I agree. I agree with that. All right, so let's move on. Osula is a development player. You don't bring him on when you're behind, away from home, chasing the game. You go with known entities. Well, if because I can agree with a lot of what Beer Viking is saying. However, we don't have any other player. So either we made a mistake by biting Osula, or we made a mistake by not loaning him out, or something's got to give because it can't be both. If if you're gonna keep him, why are you keeping him? Because if he never plays 1 minute, then we're screwed.
Mm.
What is the point of that? Yeah, you gotta wait for the right time. Well, then don't waste
Mm.
time putting them on. You can put another player on the list that you trust more than Asula. It's simple for me. But
Yeah, there could be another quite easy rationale though, Chris. As we saw latter stages of the game, a lot of the international players were going down, especially the lads that had travelled far and wide, were going down with cramps. I mean, Bruno had to come off because of his cramp. He just couldn't get rid of it, and he hobbled off. Um, that could have been something that was picked up from James Bunce or one of the medical staff and said, "Listen, you'll need to keep players back because some of these lads could tire around about the 80 minutes mark." So, yeah, again, you don't know what discussions are going on. So, there could have been a strategy for any developments going later on in the game. And that's why his hands were tied with Asula. So, we have to give a little bit of flex regarding where we go. Going forward now, the lads have got a few days rest before the next game. So, next weekend, it'll be a different question, and it'll be where we are.
yeah. Isidro Zavala, welcome, mate. Welcome back, all the way from California, which is California right now is 2 p.m. So it's still busy time, work time. So the fact that you're on, brother, appreciate that. Isidro says, with the goals Barnes has scored, you have to play him on the left. Yeah, you have to. That's his game. That's his game. People make fun of me when I compare him to Messi. I'm not actually comparing him. That's not. I just used Messi as an analogy. Um, if you put each player in their respective category, Messi's an icon, Barnes is not. However, they got the same mentality of football. One on the right, the other one on the left. But Messi is left-footed, Barnes is right-footed. They have that mentality that it is simply give me the ball and I'm going to draw up something, and that's their. I actually haven't seen Barnes really assist because you can cut inside instead of shooting, give a through pass or something like that. Haven't seen much of that when it comes to Barnes. Maybe that's something he needs to work on. However, that is the same mentality. They cut inside, look for the goal, and trust me, it's worked fine. Not the first time he's done it, and so are you going to continue to keep a player like that on the bench? I just don't, because it's not like if you were telling me that the starting lineup is killing it and it just happened that they scored and you needed to make a sub, all right, fair enough. But the starting 11 is not, especially up front. Um, you got Murphy there. You what is the gamble going to be? You gamble on Murphy to have a good game. You keep Gordon on the left, or do you bring in a Gordon that is really in good talented player? You put him on the right. He's done it before, and he's still got a lot more talent than Murphy, better player than Murphy. And you bring in Barnes that is a threat. I think it's pretty simple to me. But again, to each their own. Um, let me see. Let me go for some comments here. Ryan Foster, still angry, says, Chris, by Eddie saying all this, it clearly shows he's not getting this side to play how he wants. So this not show his training. His training is failing. If you can't get training to work on the pitch, it's failing. Well, I mean, look, teams will play bad though. It's a fact. There's not a team in the world that plays perfect. So let's get that out the way first. So Eddie wants to play good. I would assume that. If not, he's in the wrong job.
I think, unfortunately, people expectations now, thinking that we're like Man City and we've got the depth and width, of all these excellent players, and it just doesn't happen. I'd love it to happen. I'd love us to sit here and give every single player we've got 8 and above, but it just doesn't work. And like I said, I've got my coaching badges. I've managed on Saturdays. Sometimes it's very difficult to get all of your players motivated enough out there, especially if you're the underdogs. Now, I'm not saying we're the underdogs, but we all know that Molineux is a bloody difficult ground to go to and get a result. History tells you that. And that's what I'm saying. Eddie would have known this. Eddie would have made a tactic of being aware of where he was and tried to set the game up to win the game. Now, unfortunately, if it doesn't happen, as it didn't happen in the first half, if you play all your stars from the start, how do you change the game? And that's where we are at the moment. And that's what I'm saying. There's an argument for both sides. And I'm literally on the fence with this. I'd be happy if he started his strongest 11. I'm also happy with him having the tactic where it keeps a couple of his superstars on the bench. Midfield definitely needs an upgrade because obviously we've seen Longstaff. It's a passage through the back. But for me, at the end of the day, there's jobs from managers are given to players. We don't know that tactic. We don't know what the messages are. But at the end of the day, the job is given to each and individual player to get the players, well, to nullify the opposition. The only way you stop teams from winning is to nullify the opposition. So, like I said, we can't question it. We've done it. We've won the game. Let's get on with it. Let's get on to the next one.
Broski, and I knew every time people just choose not to listen.
Oh Jesus!
Because Broski's like, I know he doesn't like us. He only likes the mighty win, which is fine, perfect. But he'll be back tomorrow. But no, well, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Hoop to Twice. So Wednesday, Wednesday midday, and then in the afternoon, I'm suing for the worldwide. So I know you want him back, but he's saying compare Messi with Barnes, which by the way, Messi is with an I, not Y. Is very silly though, but that's not what I said. I'm comparing, if you will, the type of football they like to play, not player by player. It'd be silly to do that. So I didn't do that. I just literally compared the way they like to play football, and I use Messi because he's a clear comparison on that style of play. If I would have told you anybody else, probably you wouldn't recognize him. So I'm just using that clear. A player that everybody knows for that analogy, but it's okay, broski. All right. So as far as Eddie Howe's comments, I don't know what happens first. If he sits down with Sky, I'm assuming after he went with Newcastle's media team. I think the media team catches him as he's walking by, and then
there's a post-match press conference, Chris.
Right, the post-match press conference, it comes after. I'm assuming that, yeah. So
they'll have a little bit of an interview, as you saw there. Literally, as they're walking into the tunnel, they'll pull certain like they pulled Harvey Barnes and Fabian Schär to one side, and then they'll have a word with Eddie Howe before he goes into the dressing room, and then afterwards it's the post-match press conference.
Yeah. So welcome, Lance Storm. By the way, thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming on because I saw you yesterday on the watch along, so I like to see those new faces coming on the channel. Sitting with Sky, he gave us some comments that I didn't know until today. They're rewritten or quoted by the Chronicle, just so you know where I'm getting this from, because I don't have the video. It's hard for me to watch the video. I don't get the videos from the UK. Sky is within the UK only. But he is quoted to say this, which to me is Eddie Howe maybe showing his tiredness of not this good form, and maybe putting a little bit on the players and say, man, come on, something's got to give, because he is quoted saying, I wasn't totally satisfied, especially with the last 25 minutes and a half. Howe told Sky Sports at full time, we've got quality players on the bench, and the lads are playing, and the lads that are playing know that they have to perform. If you don't perform to correct the levels, then we have the ability to make those changes. You have to credit the players that came on and they showed their qualities. Harvey's goal is outstanding, a brilliant moment, and he's done that a few times for us. So I'm delighted with the squad. Everyone played their part, and it's a massive win. But I think if you really pay attention to what he said before, right there when he says, if you don't perform to the correct levels, then we have the ability to make those changes, which is pretty basic, right? That's what the manager does, make changes. However, it's not usual Eddie it's not usual Eddie to say that. It's not usual Eddie. Is he going to follow his own comments, follow through, and actually take out the players that are not performing? And if that's the case, how long are those players going to be starting? Because if you think that this player is not playing good, it's not playing good over and over and over, well, at some point you got to make a change. And I'm directing this to one player in particular, which is Longstaff. However, in his words, I'm assuming he's not happy with how Bruno performed, how Joe Linton was subbed off, and in my head was a bit of a surprise, but it is what it is. So what do you think about that?
I think Eddie was criticised last year, and he's been criticised. He's been criticised a couple of seasons for not making changes when required early enough in the games. I think he's starting to realise. I mean, obviously, you've got limitations, and I know people stop. You can't keep giving everybody an excuse. Last year there was an obvious excuse because we just didn't have the depth of squad. Now we've started to get players that can actually play to a good level, even to support. And all the players that Eddie picks, the starting 11, have to perform now. It's as simple as that. And that the only other area of concern for me, and I've said it from day one, isn't the right centre back as much as we need one. It's right wing, because at the present moment in time, Murphy's got a free ride. If he doesn't perform like he did on Sunday, there is no obvious choice to take him off. And I think that's something that we'll need to dig into in the coming months, and hopefully, potentially, if the rumours are true, and like I said, there's a lot of links out there now about Sane, who now it's stating that they're willing to break the wage structure and bring him on board for free, or at least go and speak to him in January. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the months ahead.
Yeah. And like I said, we'll have to see if Eddie keeps his word and makes those changes like he's saying he would do, which he did at halftime. Which you got to give him that. He did do it. But it's not usual Eddie making those subs. Thank you so much to Brent. Appreciate that, mate, for that kindly super chat. We need those. God knows we need those. Brent says we haven't talked enough about the importance of Shar being back. Is credit Kraft because he did well, but it's a big deal that he's back, in my opinion. What do you think about that? I mean, I do agree with that. Shar gives you a lot on the offensive end.
Shaw's like I said, and I made a comment when we saw J7 put that ball through the middle of the park, and I spoke about if Shaw was in the team. Shaw's the type of centre back that will move into the space, and he gives you that creativity. He's a good passer of the ball. He can play short. He can link in with the midfield, and that's what I said. For me, it looks very much now that we can utilise Shaw in several different positions. And like I said, he's such a forward-thinking player that gets into those half spaces. His goal came from that. It was just a nice little 5-yard pass from Bruno that allowed him to have a touch out of his feet, and it's a beautiful ball. Yeah, there was a slight deflection, and that took it away from the keeper. But would he have scored without it? We'll never know. But what I'm saying to you is that the lad scores some absolute wonderful goals from outside the box. He's got a great shot on him, but he's also got a good head on his shoulders. Sometimes, as I've said before, he is found wanting a little bit in the back. He's a bit susceptible to go to the ball rather than mark the player, or at least mark the space between the player. And he is found wanted at times. But we're a much better team, and we look a lot more confident with the ball when Shah's in the team. But you're absolutely right, mate. Kraft did a cracking job, and we spoke about Kraft in a few shows ago when we were talking in the international break. That it'll be, Kraft's done a great job. It's a shame that he's picked up a knock and was obviously pulled from the Swedish side because I think that would have done his confidence the world of good. And that just proves how well he's done for Newcastle while Shah's been on his suspension. So for me, it's been a positive thing, and it's nice to know now. And Eddie's come out and said it that Kraft is now looking more of a centre half position in the right centre back position than he is in a right back position. So again, it's a tap on the back from the gaffer. So for me, Kraft is he wants to learn, but he just doesn't give you what Shah does. And like I say, for me, we look so much better.
And I would say another player that we haven't talked about much, obviously Shah is back, is, in my opinion, Nicholas Pope, because he is doing. A lot of people say, we're not there. Well, you say we're not in the Man City levels. Yeah, obviously we're not. You're right, but he is doing what a big team goalkeeper needs to do every game, which is Man City are not going to get attacked most games. They're just going to be chilling, attacking themselves, not really receiving most. Well, they do, but not for the most part. They are the ones doing. They're the ones controlling the game. In a big team, you need a goalkeeper that would probably fall asleep for majority of the game, but will make that one or two saves to just keep you in the game or help you win the game. And it's hard because these goalkeepers for these big teams usually don't get a lot of attacking towards them. They're just spectating the game for the most part. And I think that Pope now has been in that position where he not much is happening. Although we're not playing great, not much is happening, and then he gives you 1 or 2, 3 saves per game that are clutch, that are important.
Yeah.
And yesterday, that shot by Cunha was a great and unbelievable, and he dived for that one. And what an unbelievable block! So he's not getting a lot of praise, which he should. Obviously, Barnes is going to lead that, but I think that we can't forget what Nick Pope is doing at goal.
I think the problem is like I said, there was a couple of little things that Pope did on Sunday that obviously went by the by. If you remember the instant shot from Cunha that looked like it was sneaking in on the near post, that he just literally put his hand up because everybody was saying, well, I think we said, did that hit the post? If you look at the slow mos on that, it was a save. It was an instinct save, and he does things like that without even a mention. We all know that what Pope can give us as a keeper with his hands and his athleticism. The biggest problem with Pope, as we know, it's on the floor. It's the distribution to players, and even though he tells players where to go, when he tries to kick to them, even at distance, especially if he's going to the outskirts of the pitch, he kicks it out for a throw in, and it's like I said, it always brings a bit of a cloud over what his ability is, and it's a shame because if he did the simple things and did the basic things, you wouldn't even be thinking about it.
Yep. So don't forget about Nick Pope. All right. So oh yeah, I did have this set up, which I don't know if which it was because people did debate and have been debating, and we had a few panelists come up with Dubravka and Nick Pope, and if Dubravka trying to make a case for Dubravka. But I did have this comparison, but it wouldn't be fair. It really wouldn't be fair on SofaScore because this year Dubravka hasn't played at all. I don't think.
No.
And last year Pope didn't play much. So a good half. So I guess we could do that comparison. But I think it really there's no point, is it?
Pope's our number one. Dubravka's our number two. And like I say, for me, I don't think, apart from potentially against Wimbledon and the early stages of the cup competitions against lesser sides, I don't think you'll see anybody else even get anywhere near. I think it'll be Pope all the way in the Premier League if he stays injury free and fit. And I'm hoping the anchor that he's now got in his shoulder is solid. And obviously, the confidence that he gets from that going forward will only aid him mentally, because there's nothing worse, like I say, when you've got an injury like he has, when you're using that body part continually, to have that niggling in the back of your brain. But for what I've seen so far, he seems to be dealing with things really good. I mean, yeah, I suppose, like I say, I criticised him for his slight error. I know you justified it a little bit when we played against Spurs and Dan Burn scored the own goal. I thought he could do better. You thought he was trying to push it out of play. And that's what I'm saying. You know, the biggest problem with being in goal is if you make a mistake, it often ends in a goal. So that's the other thing. It's like I said, there is nobody to blame. And you know, there was a comment you saw earlier where we said, you know, Longstaff lost the ball at the edge of their penalty box and we conceded. That's got nothing to do with Pope. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. It's about percentages and then playing the right ball at the right time and got behind us. So it is very small margins that win or lose your games, and we've got to start finding these margins to continue this form.
Thank you so much to Brent Bond for becoming a member. You know, we need those members, so stay tuned for member only content. Appreciate that, mate. And you'll be able to watch everything that we have, because a lot of the shows after they're live, they go to the members vault. And so, but thank you so much for that, and appreciate your support, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's go with Alan Shearer's comments. I mean, on this podcast, the rest is football. You know, they were talking about it, of course, and they were talking about Newcastle playing well and actually winning, not playing so well, but winning, which is important. And he talked about Gordon in the middle. You know, quote, he said, Gordon went down to the middle today because Isak came off at halftime. So if he can find a way to get both of those in the team, don't know what he meant by both of those. Gordon went down to the middle today because Isak came off at halftime. So if he can find a way to get both of those in the team, when asked by Lineker, there was a big advert in the middle, so you know I thought that was it. When asked by Lineker how he would set up the attack, Shearer replied, "Probably Gordon on the right if Isak is going to be fit. I know Wilson has been injured and he hasn't appeared this season yet, but probably Gordon on the right and then Barnes on the left hand side and Isak down the middle. I mean, that's really good, a really good front three," says Alan Shearer. And we've talked about it earlier on, but obviously when Alan says it, it's you know, it comes down with a heavyweight. In again, we just going over the same thing. I think it's right. You know, I think it's right. It needs to be Barnes, Isak, and Gordon on the right. Is that what you
There's
had?
no
as well?
argument. Yeah, I mean, there was a press conference with Alan Shearer when he was. It was Star Sports. It was Star Premier, I think it was Star Premier Sports, where he's literally just talking about how by starting them top three and all of the panelists. There was Glenn Hoddle, there was Wrighty and Alan Shearer, and they all said, you know, it's a formidable three.
Right.
One's got pace, one's got great finishing ability, and the other one can score goals from anywhere. And it's like we always say, the biggest problem is if it doesn't work when they're doing the job, what do you replace them with? And that's where we become a little bit unstuck at the minute. So from that aspect, we've just got to try and make a. I think Chris is having issues with.
There
Oh,
we
yeah,
go.
you go. You've put your camera back on. You're on your proper camera,
Yeah, proba.
And that's it for me. You can't argue with what he said. Start with your strongest front three. But like I said before, who do you put on if it ain't happening? Because we have nobody to replace them. I mean, Willett can play up on the left hand side. I agree with you. But then we lose that momentum from midfield. So it's like I said, at this present moment in time, we're a growing team, but we need to have that quality on the bench to go like for like when we come to replacements.
Yeah, that is true. On Sky Sports as well, former referee Dermot Gallagher
Yeah,
reviewed controversial calls in this game, which were only a few. So it's good to just review those real quick. The incident where the ball hits the Wolves defender Craig Dawson's arm, but no penalty given by the referee. Neither does VAR. Ask him to go look at the replay of the incident. Dermot says correct decision is if you watch it, it comes of arm Dawson's own body, bounces up,
yeah,
hits Dawson's
and
arm.
deflected. That's
So
right.
there you go. On the second one, Jason Tyndall is booked by the referee after picking a ball up and passing it to Joe Willock for a quick throw in. He also says it's a correct decision. Only the players can get the players off the cones.
That's right.
And
And it
Jason
would have been
wanted
a
to get
foul
it.
throw as well if he hadn't have got booked. Do you know that?
Yeah, yeah.
Because Willock had 2 feet off the floor when he threw the ball back in, so it would have been a foul throw, and again it would have been given to Wolves. So I suppose the yellow card for Mad Dog was a blessing.
Heck yeah. Remember the tickets for Everton are sold out. And when do we play Everton, man? That's when do we play Everton? But that they are sold out. Wait,
Yeah, it's to say that's a while yet, isn't it? It's October.
the Magpies the final trip to Goodison Park on Saturday, 5th of October.
Yeah,
And they're sold out. Jeez, man, we're sold out that
it
far.
depends on how many they've given us, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me. What's Beer Viking saying? We have breaking news. What's that all about, guys?
Where's Brie Wagon at? I don't know where Brie Wagon's saying.
Yeah.
Oh, we have breaking news. There you go. Don't know. Don't know what's going on, Beer. You tell me.
Give us a shout, buddy, for something that we need to look at quickly while we're on air.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
But yeah, if you were planning to go on the Everton thing, the Mighty Wind's English hat. The Mighty Wind has landed. Oh, there we go. Mighty
Oh,
Wind
there you
has.
go.
How do you know, by the
Safely
way?
landed. I'm going to say.
How do you know? We don't know.
Yeah. He must be Wynn's butler.
Exactly, man. He's Mighty Wind's biggest fan. I did want to play a cool clip of a quick interview that that Tonali did with Sky Sports. Did you watch that?
Yeah. Very interesting.
Interesting. Obviously, but I'm surprised of his English, to be honest. Really,
Yeah. It's coming on. It's coming on.
It's coming on. He says people instead of person, but we get the point. Or you'll get the point when you watch this.
Eddie Howe mentioned that you were dealing mentally well with it, that you were mentally in a good place. So how was it to deal with everything that happened, the fact that you needed to address something, and also not having football, which was always such a big part of your life,
Yeah, maybe it's 90% of my life. When I come in the training ground, I am the same people with the gaffer, with the staff, with my teammates. And before this time off, before the last year, I don't know, but it's a little bit different because I was another people. I was two different people in my life and in the football, and now I am only one people, only one. I don't know, one people in the football, one people in the life. And when I speak with the gaffer, I am Sandro. When I play, I'm Sandro. When I come back in Italy, I'm Sandro. I understand this in the last year and this time off.
There you go. Obviously, basically saying that before he felt like two different people, and now he feels like just one. So we needs to be on the team, man. I think he'll be a really great addition. He already is, but you know, to be part of this team, I think he's crucial. All right, let's finish off with a reaction to Simon Jordan and Martin Keown as they clash over division between Newcastle's Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell. We're gonna, watch it. It's a long video, but we shall, see how it goes.
Start to a Premier League campaign in 29 years. They're on the brink of something.
Do you know, I watched the game yesterday afternoon, and I was thinking they were controlling matters, but it didn't feel that they had the best players on the pitch. And then at halftime, he makes, Harvey Barnes comes on, Tonali comes on, Willock comes on, and they just had that, the handbrake came off, and they played with really attacking some of the goals in the game. Harvey Barnes' goal was ridiculous, wonderful goal. And you saw them on the bench. You saw Harvey Barnes on the bench almost saying, do you know what? I can do better than this. In fact, they were in dialogue, and they went on and did it. They did the talking on the pitch, and I like that. Now, you can say, well, is the manager really sure of his best 11? You can say opposite to that, well, great competition. He made the necessary changes, but I think there's a...
Or is Barnes one of those players, you would know better than I, that isn't a starting lineup player?
Well, Gordon plays on the left, and they both like that position. Obviously, they like cutting in, but it's like trying to find them a place for both of them in the team. In the second half, Isak went off with a nosebleed. So they've had to put Gordon down the middle, and he kind of floated out of the game a little bit. But he was a shining light in the first half. I think his decision making, his composure on the ball, he's growing as an individual.
Isn't this the beauty of having the ability to have a decent bench and then knowing how to manage it?
Fantastic bench.
So rather than saying that Barnes should have started, ultimately they won a game. How you win a game over 90 minutes is irrelevant. If you use your bench and you've got that kind of resource on there and you believe that Gordon's the right way to go from the start, and most people would argue that Gordon is the right thing to go with, then ultimately the outcome is the outcome.
Well,
and as much as we're trying, as much as the media are trying to create as much division between Newcastle's management, whether it be Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell, as they possibly can, the team on the field is winning games.
It's the manager's prerogative to pick the team he wants.
Correct.
I'm just thinking it seemed obvious to me, but that they needed to be on the pitch.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't mess about. He didn't take his time on it. He made the necessary changes.
But that was an enforced change, wasn't it? It was an enforced change.
One of them was
Isak,
enforced.
The change that we're talking about.
No, but there were three changes at half-time. All three of those players came on at half-time, and they played a major part in what happened.
Well, this is it, man. I mean, football's woken up to this. Eddie Jones in the world of rugby used to say the finishers who I bring on are as important as the starters.
Yeah, but he was a riddle wrapped up in a rhyme, though, wasn't he, Eddie Jones?
Yeah. You mentioned the media at the heart of this so-called argument going on behind the scenes at Newcastle. It's not really the media. We're kind of stepping back and watching them do it. Sporting director Paul Mitchell, once of Southampton, then Monaco, he's in the door at Newcastle. And he came in and was fairly swift to criticise the previous transfer strategy from the past. He said, was it fit for purpose? Not the last winter one. The winter before that. Eddie Howe thought that the time was right pre-match to talk about Mitchell's comments.
I think a few things on that. I think very, very proud of every single player that we signed in that period. I think it's very easy to look back at any transfer window and sort of make a judgment on the players that you've signed 3 years down the line, but you have to go back to actually the situation we're in when we're in those moments where you're in the relegation zone and you're trying to recruit players. That's not an easy thing to do. So I think it's about actually when you're in that moment, the decisions that you made, and I think everyone can hold their heads up very high.
Just lastly, have you spoken to Paul since last week?
No, I've had no contact from Paul, but I don't think that's unusual. We've got different jobs to do. I'm focusing on the football and the team, and he's obviously focusing on his role.
So they're both focusing on their separate roles, and we know that they don't appear to have that much of a close relationship.
But I think there's a deliberate misinterpretation from the media on characterising what Paul Mitchell said. Under the governance of football, in order for Newcastle to be able to refresh and re-energise their team, they need to have a transfer policy that enables them to move players in and out to be able to do what they need to do, which is give Newcastle the opportunity to progress. That's the point he's making. And what's being suggested is that he's criticising Eddie Howe, not doing that at all. He's saying what's not fit for purpose is in order for Newcastle to progress the way that people perceive they would with a buying policy, they had to buy players and sell players
why
better.
doesn't then Eddie Howe react in that manner? why does he then respond as if he is being criticised?
I agree
Because he's pushing back against the characterisation that the media are framing it in, which is basically Paul Mitchell is criticising him.
Why are
He's
they
not criticising.
Why are they
And
airing
also
their
Eddie-
dirty washing in public?
And what
These conversations should be taking place internally.
Well, he can't with the media, because ultimately, if you're asked a question,
You can
about
ignore the
why-
question, no?
No, hold on. Well, of course you can.
I think he'd be
and
best placed to have done
and then
that.
you can be critical of the reasons why the club isn't communicative. So if Newcastle, the challenge for Newcastle is that everyone thinks they're the world's richest football club, and why aren't they buying their way to success? And the reality of it is they can't. So now what you've got is a new director of football coming in and saying, in part, the reasons why I can't do what I would like to do is because the previous buying policies, which were right at the time, but what we needed to fix at the time, aren't proving to be right in the here and now, because we can't trade the way we want to now. Now, that's not criticism. Now, what Eddie's doing is going, OK, I'm not going to have these players criticised, because he's taking it down to a micro level and thinking that the players in the dressing room you've still got to manage are being in part criticised. No, they're not. And that's the way the question's been put.
But Eddie said, at the end of the last window there, it was the most hands-off window I've ever had.
Yeah.
And Mitchell says, we didn't have the sales window we thought we would have.
Yeah, because they wanted Gary.
And we have to look at that strategy as well.
And they couldn't get it, because I would imagine that the question was loaded about why didn't they buy the players they thought they were going to buy. And given the fact that we know that the one player they wanted was Gary, and they couldn't get him. Now, maybe in the context of a question, he can be more diplomatic about suggesting the fact that there might be blame to be attributed. If you've got one, if you're a sniper, you better hit that one shot you've got. And if the one shot you want is Gary and you miss it, you're going to be judged by those standards.
But this is about control, isn't it? So this is about Eddie now. This is a new guy coming in, and this is someone's. If he's setting unrealistic targets, which really he was, 75 million is an unrealistic. I saw him getting done at the weekend, by the way, quite cheaply
that's a
for
different
pace,
conversation, though,
and
isn't
is he really
it?
good enough?
That's
So
a
it's
different
kind of
question.
like, okay, if we're in the building, we've got to have as a football club, we can't have one target. We've got to have 3 or 4. Eddie.
That's my point.
Do you know?
That's my point.
And Eddie just wants one target. He's basically saying,
meddling, no, it's not media meddling. I mean,
it's media mischaracterisation is what it is.
Mitchell is quoted as saying there were other targets. Could there have been more? I would say potentially.
Yeah.
But Eddie was very clear that he had to feel comfortable that the person added value because we have really good players. That's why we ended up where we did.
And that's a statement of fact. That's a statement of process.
So Mitchell's basically saying, point your guns at Eddie and not me.
Mitchell's not saying point your guns at anyone.
No, he's you in the building.
He's giving you an answer to the question.
He needs to take time for us to trust him.
What we're doing is characterising the question as attributing blame. Paul Bagger can't answer a question. He gives you an answer to a question, and then we characterise it as some sort of division between people.
Yeah, but don't you see that Eddie's always so old school in terms of like the way he manages clubs? People tell me at Bournemouth he did everything, lock, stock and barrel.
Hang on.
He wants to do the same at Newcastle. And by the way, he hasn't done a bad job, has he?
No, not
in
at all.
doing that.
Agreed.
Look where he is in the table
The last
right
thing
now.
I would categorise Eddie Howe as old school. Right? I wouldn't categorise him as old school.
No, in
at all.
terms of being given carte blanche to do what he wants within a football
Second of all, I very much doubt, given the fact that Bournemouth spent 2 and 6, that he had many decisions to make. Right, so his ultimate experience of how much money they could spend is superseded by the fact they had no money to spend.
But don't you
and
find
when they
it
bought
strange,
players
though,
like Jordan Eve, they were bad boys at times.
Before they played at the weekend against Wolves, don't you find it strange that Eddie came out with what he came out with regarding the transfer strategy, having not had a conversation with Mitchell?
Don't you think it's strange that the poor sod that's going to manage a football team on Saturday afternoon, the first question he has to answer was something that's been said by the sporting director? Maybe if the question wasn't asked, then Eddie Howe wouldn't be given the answer.
But the question was asked, and he hadn't spoken with Mitchell. But don't you find it strange that the two hadn't spoken?
Why is the sporting director
not
speaking?
Since the transfer window slammed shut.
But they're not aligned, are they? They're not aligned when their clubs speak.
Depends if you believe that the definition of the role, there would be zero benefit. Surely there would be zero. Think about the logic of it just for a second. What is the benefit or lack of benefit in a sporting director not speaking to a manager? Unless there was a real confrontation.
But they're speaking through the press, though, aren't they?
Well, are they? Or are they?
They are.
Well,
so
the local press.
You own Newcastle Football Club now.
Yes.
What would you be doing today? You'd be saying, "Come on, guys, I don't want this being aired publicly. Have your conversations internally."
You're asking me again.
Eddie, come on, adjust now. We've got somebody else.
You're seeing my response.
You're looking at Brighton Football Club, and you're saying they're one of the best run in the country.
You're seeing my response.
The manager doesn't decide who comes through the door.
But you're seeing my response. You just asked me a question. My response has already superseded that. Because if I was the owner of Newcastle, my response would be the same response I've just given you. Which is, this is you, media, characterising two individuals inside a business.
The media are going to be the media.
We
have to handle it better internally.
Martin, I'd be privy to what was the relationship between my two colleagues, so I wouldn't need to have a conversation.
Don't sound very aligned to me when Eddie's saying that before the Wolves game.
No, because the question is being asked of him in such a way. And what he's doing is defending the particular area that he thinks is of concern and doesn't want any further division. Because
if he'd spoken to Paul Mitchell before that interview, before the Wolves game, he'd have said, no, I know what Paul said, and he didn't mean it like that. Just so as you know, Paul and I have spoken about this. We're on the same page.
Well, maybe that.
Now, let me talk to you about my team
and
for
maybe
Wolves.
that's right. And maybe there would have been benefits in the fact that those two guys might have communicated, and maybe they did, and maybe they didn't want to share that information with us in the media.
Thank God for that.
No, but there is a process that you work towards, and the whole process isn't about what satisfies us in the media.
Paul Mitchell comes in off the street. He's a hold on. If he's just come in, he's like a blow-in. He's come in and telling everybody what he's going to do. No, we fought to take this club out of relegation up to the top 4.
He didn't say that.
And you talk like that?
He didn't say that.
That's how it's his reaction.
That's how you've chosen to interpret it.
That's how Eddie's taken to interpret it.
That's how he's choosing to interpret it.
No, Eddie is
via
taking
the media.
that way.
If your transfer policy,
he stood up for those players.
If your transfer
I justify every signing I've made.
But that's a different argument. And that's not
the
problem.
argument he's making.
No, the argument is about transfer policies and who's more effective in it. And the reasons why Newcastle can't buy is because their previous transfer policies have led them to a position where they can't buy now.
Okay.
Oh wow, we ended up. I thought it was going to be a quick video. We ended up watching the whole thing, which is great. What a debate! What a clash! But I do agree with a lot of the things that both Martin and Simon are saying. Though it's been poked by the media and more fire and fire and fire. But the protagonists haven't put water on the fire either. So and it could be again interpreted as Paul Mitchell is saying one thing. He's coming out after what Eddie's been saying about the window, contradicting Eddie because he feels like Eddie was saying, well, I haven't been involved. And then the next conference, Eddie says, I haven't talked to Mitchell, since many weeks ago. One saying that he keeps Eddie, informed of everything and talk to him more than his wife. And the other one says, I haven't talked to him at all. So it's it's interesting. What do you think about this?
Again, mate, what's everybody saying in the chat is exactly right. There's very few. I do enjoy listening to Simon Jordan talk. He often gives some critical information across certain platforms, and like I say, you either agree with it or you disagree with it. And with this one, I wholeheartedly agree with him. And I said that at the start when we looked at the argument from the outset. I said, to me, it's an interpretation issue. It's not the fact that he's saying that what Eddie's done is wrong. They were in a situation where they needed to go buy. They needed to buy better players. And at this present moment in time, we can't continue to do it. And Simon Jordan's virtually reiterated what we were saying 2 weeks ago. And it's nice to hear it from these guys. Because, like I say, I do think they need to put a little bit of a blanket over this now. We all saw the pictures in the stands of the three of them, Eels, Mitchell and Pete Silverstone. And none of them looked happy to be even sitting next to each other, never mind. And again, that just fuels the fire. Because none of them were what we saw when Amanda was at the games, where she was jovial, where she was, encouraging the lads to play better. She was doing a lot of things to when she was watching the matches, which we actually don't see from these three. They're very much like statues. And like I say, all that does to me is give the media the fuel to go and say and point the finger and say there's definitely something going on behind the scenes. Now, the other point of what he was saying is, yes, Eddie could at any point say that we've spoken, it's all put to bed, we're really good, if that's facts. But it seems to me as if Eddie's concentrating on the coaching side of things, and at some point Mitchell and Eddie will have to come together and discuss January. It's around the corner now, and we've got very few months left before the negotiation starts. So let's watch the space.
Well, he did say Eddie Howe over the weekend on when you guys would get ready for a window. He says, well, I would expect anytime soon now, because you have to get ready and get your potential targets, etc. So good stuff there. All right, let's go with the comments before we go. Beer Viking, has anyone seen Jacob Murphy? Last seen preseason. Please call Eddie Howe on 1892. There you go. James Stasher, why? Is Isak injury more serious? I've heard nothing about it. We haven't heard anything either, but, who knows? We got to prepare. I mean, there's nothing we can do, really. We don't have it. We don't have a substitute.
We'll probably know by Wednesday, I would have thought.
Yeah. Brent says, Bruno hasn't been great, but give him more time before you judge him as a captain. He has shown leadership this season, just hasn't played well. I'm sure it's coming. Also, Brent says, we cannot keep falling behind early on the road. In my opinion, we have to have our best 11 on the pitch from the start, bring in guys who can close out leads rather than the guys who need to bring it back. Tunarmi Oz says Barnes is more clinical finisher from the left than Gordon. Therefore, should be his starting position. Brent says Shar was trying to close an angle. Really, that guy who let it go through his legs made that all happen. Was just a great break. Talking about Burn. Pete says something of notice is J7 away from home is a bit of a liability. Very rash. Willock, Bruno, and Tonali. These three in the middle could be immense. Ryan says, sorry, Gary, you're wrong. It's not about tactics. It's about his passion to get forward, and he has none. It took 3 subs for him to show up. Tactics mean nothing. Ability, mental game, management, no excuses.
Bow my head to your superior knowledge, Roy.
Yeah. Also, Ryan, Chris Tonali is captain of a title-winning team. Is he? What did we win? Or who's he captain to? Is the captain to a title?
Milan.
Oh, Tonali. I thought we were talking about Bruno for some reason. In his semifinal with Milan, he has the mentality to be captain and lead. Bruno does not see him shout or organize the backline ever. Well, I don't think Tonali is in a position to be captain. He's just getting back.
Nope. Not with his record.
Not with his record right now. Doesn't mean he won't be, but not right off the bat. Michael NUFC has a question. Was reading earlier on BBC Sport, they supposedly were looking into Leroy Sané. What are your thoughts? That he's a good player. I'll take him anytime.
Absolutely. It'll just be the wages. And according to rumours, they're willing to break them. But again, you can't trust the rumours. So it'll be an interesting conversation will be had by all, I would imagine. So, but like I say, this name, as I said yesterday when we did when I said earlier, I'd looked at several reports that this is one of the names. There's another one, Tar, as centre back has also been mentioned. I did mention a defender this morning. I may as well say his name. Tar has now been mentioned as a potential to be looked at anyway.
Yeah. James Stasher, exactly why is Longstaff starting? Oh, we beat that dead horse already.
Yeah.
Ryan Foster, I've had enough of this, Gary. Stop defending bad management. We've all seen enough of football to know he's failing. Fact, a manager's job is to get his training to transition to the pitch. Fact.
Yeah.
Tunarmi Barnes, defensive output isn't great. With young fullbacks playing, that is the risk and why he was benched instead of Murphy. Beer Viking, it is time to shift to a 4-2-3-1 with Gordon in the 10. I would love that. That's my favorite formation. To be fair, I love playing with a 10 anyway. But Brent Barnes has been the most positive offensively this year. Gordon seems to be getting close to where he should be. Isak still struggling, in my opinion. Chris, change your. Yeah, what was wrong with my background? I don't understand. Just shirts, man.
I don't know. Is it the reflection of was he looking at the delayed response in your television?
Yeah, so that's why I shut it off. Maybe that's what he was talking about, but he never answered, or she never answered. Whichever. But let me know, mate. Niall, but you have Willock and Murphy and others to come on to help change the game. Jim Stasher, start your best players. Niall, Chris Barnes had a good game, but we need to see this on a consistent basis. Well, you got to play him to be, you got to keep playing him.
That's the one thing we saw in pre-season, though, Chris, wasn't it? Some days he played really well, other days he didn't, and that's why I said he's got to prove that consistency level now.
Right. We read shout out to Brand for the super chat, and shout out to him becoming a member as well. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Colton Connor, we technically need to get rid of most of Ashley and Bruce signings. They are championship players at best, I would assume he's saying. BT, Eddie has given the captain's armband to Bruno at appease the player. I do not see his leadership on the pitch. Trippier should have been captain. So, yeah, fair point. Colton Connor, why don't Howe ever start the best 11? What's up with him? Can you imagine Robson putting Shearer on the bench and starting Armstrong? Well, I don't know that we have a Shearer, to be honest, but I do get your point. Which, I mean, technically would be Isak. If Isak wasn't playing and Osula was, then yeah, I would get that point. James Cuff, that throw was the most ridiculous throw I've ever seen. Foul throws never get called in the Premier League. It gets called every single time at Sunday League. Yeah. Brian Quinn says the positives for me this season has been the team spirit. So all credit to the lads. Toon Army says Simon Jordan is right. I think Paul Mitchell's comments have been taken out of context. Brent says, while there was some things Mitchell doesn't agree with how things were, Howe, in my opinion, is making a small fuss about it. He wasn't truthful about his communications with Mitchell, so he set the record, says Brent. Cards Gaming, welcome back, mate, says, I think people overestimate the owners wanting to make money from winning. I worry that they will have a sellout at some point and sell Isak, Bruno, etc. Foxy says, as soon as Mitchell arrived, Howe was making poor comments in Germany. I'm glad Mitchell spoke up. He's put automatic pressure on himself, but I'd rather that than someone who goes hiding in tough times.
Yeah.
And last but not least, BT says it is up to Eddie to inform Mitchell what type of players he's looking for, and it is Mitchell's job to find them within the budget. Well, not only that, he needs to make sure they fit the club's, well, not the style of play, but he's not going to get a player that ain't worth a damn just because Eddie Howe wants him. It's because obviously he has to take care of the club.
Yeah,
so
but
I've said it.
the beauty of it is now, if we've got this 60 million, I'm questioning 60 million because obviously it was around that we offered for Gay. They've got a little pocket of money. You've got two really good players coming to the end of their contracts that could obviously come over for a small fee. If that's what their potential targets are going to be. So, like I say, why not look elsewhere? You know, you can't tell me that Tar and Sane are two really poor players. It's what they'll be willing to pay in the in wages, and I think that's something that we've got to start looking at now. If they're going to come on the cheap, then potentially they may have to have a little bit more in wages.
That is right. All right. Well, it's been a great show, of course. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you so much for watching, for tuning in. The ones that donated, thank you so much for your support. It's always well taken, and you know we love it. Shout out to GR in the chat as well. Positive lads, we are third, says GR. So shout out to you, mate.
Absolutely.
But anyways, tomorrow will be Hoof the Twat show at 10 p.m. and we'll get some videos up as well earlier in the day. So probably midday a video clip of one of our shows. So give those some love as well. We need to have those videos do well for us. And we'll be back with some more news talk on Wednesday, the midday show with Mighty Win and Gary, and then I'll be back. We'll be back later on. Maybe Toon Talk Worldwide. Yep, that's going to be on Wednesday. Anyways, folks, thank you so much. I see Davey T, everybody getting in. Appreciate it. Watch the show on the replay if you need to. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you on the next one, folks. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks all. See you later.